What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Kick-Ass Podcast. We are back here today. We are live again to review Bash in Berlin, which just wrapped up not too long ago, maybe about 20, 25 minutes ago or so, if that. Um, Wanted to take a look at it as soon as possible. I really enjoyed the show. I was planning on doing a little recording later on, but I figured I might as well knock it out now. And sorry with my appearance, I watched a little bit of it at the pool via my phone, so my hair looks a little crazy. That is why. But as always, thank you guys so much for checking out the show. I truly appreciate it. If you are watching on replay, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and let me know what you guys think on Twitter. That'd probably be a little bit easier. If you're watching, like I said, in the future at Kickash Podcast _, or you can follow me personally at ASHMANNS. But yeah, if you're watching here live on YouTube or even in the future here on YouTube as well, feel free to comment and let me know what you guys think on any match in specific, the pay per view as a whole, the environment over in Berlin, just whatever your thoughts are. I'm down to hear it. It's probably not gonna be too long of a show. Like I said, I've done a few shows now here back to back to back. Whether here at the Kickash Podcast or this morning, we did a live stream this morning at 10 a.m. Eastern over at Brass Ring Media. So feel free to follow and subscribe over there as well on YouTube. That is a weekly show, the 10 a.m. show over at Brass Ring Media that I myself do, but they also host other live and daily shows as well and content. So definitely give them a follow and see what they're about. Zach and Tyler do great work. You also have Robert who does nighttime. I believe it's on, I forget, I think it's on Thursday. I had to double check that. And my cat is making an appearance here as well. So if there's a random run-in, I apologize in advance. And that goes to speak for my dogs as well, who are out in the living room on guard. But with all that out of the way, we will be diving right into the PLE itself. As a whole, I thought it was a really good show. It's kind of what you would expect. I did get a couple of my predictions wrong, so it is what it is. But I definitely want to talk about that. One in particular that I got wrong was the mixed tag match. I was definitely surprised by. I'm not even hating it, but we'll dive into that here in a little bit. But again, guys, the show overall, I think, again, I love the international feel. I love the afternoon shows on Saturdays. That's just a huge plus. But I think that what they do setting up and leading up to it, like I discussed over at Brass Ring Media, the way that they divide the two shows up. So you have Friday Night SmackDown leading into your Saturday PLE. They kind of divide it. So where you had like your SmackDown Women's Championship match last night, you had the remaining 5 matches today on today's card. So it really divides it up nicely, and it just gives you an opportunity to breathe. You can see the Vixie in the background. And just an opportunity to appreciate each match more. So I like that, and I dig the vibe. But pulling up the card here, we actually opened with Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens, which I wasn't too surprised by, but it's still kind of something else seeing Cody Rhodes open the show. Sorry, guys, we'll be taking some sips here off and on. And something exciting. It's just good old ginger ale. So again, Canada Dry, if you are looking for a sponsor, holla at your girl. Um, but I'm getting the results pulled up here specifically. This match, it really ended up taking a little bit of a turn, and it actually was pleasantly surprising. I think that Kevin Owens not turning, but still teetering on it, but at the end of the match and after the match, still not turning on Cody and really just letting it breathe and letting their friendship really speak for itself and not allowing his past tendencies, the past KO characteristics that you would imagine him to do, he didn't do. So I think that was surprising. I like that they flirted with that idea though, and I like that they really brought attention to it. I like that at the beginning of the match he was very torn on attacking the knee that he had addressed on SmackDown last night. He specifically said that he wasn't sure if, or he's not that he wasn't sure, but he specifically said that he had heard from guys in the back, they have been texting, that his knee is injured, his knee being Cody, and that the circuit that he had been doing, the live tour, really didn't help him physically. So to see Kevin bring that up and then not directly go after that as a weakness and a something that he could focus on throughout the entirety of the match with Cody, I think was pretty surprising. And especially with the type of wrestler and fighter that we know Kevin Owens to be. He's the prize fighter, right? So that's literally something that he would do. So the fact that he didn't, I think, is very telling. And kind of fast forwarding to the end of the match, I'm pretty certain it was only one definitive crossroads that Cody hit on Kevin Owens to retain the title and to pick up the 3 count. So the fact that we didn't see like the 3 succession of crossroads or anything like that, and Kevin lost, I think that is going to play into any eventual return match or any possible turn that we'll see from Kevin in the future. And again, I'm not even advocating or anything like that for Kevin to turn. The exact opposite, rather. Just because he's turned too much. I think he's a great heel, but it's just been too much. But yeah, I really liked the ending of the match. Or not the ending, but the ending as well. But what happened afterwards, and the fact that Kevin was really torn on what he wanted to do, and just acknowledging Cody to begin with. Getting it pulled up here. I had made some notes. Yeah, so Cody did end up going for a third one, but Owens had telegraphed it and hit a stunner. Cody kicked out of the stunner again, but it's just so funny seeing KO hitting the stunner. But Owens went to the top for a swanton, which Cody got his knees up, which is pretty played out. I kind of wish they would do something different, like do something like just roll out of the way or like roll towards the turnbuckle to avoid. I guess that kind of screws your opponent over more, though. You're trying to look out for people, but to me, I'm just like, you always got to do the knees up. But yeah, I get it. But when we talk about the women's tag, there was a scary moment with that, so table that for a second. But again, Cody got the knees up. Cody got up after that, sold his knee pain, but ended up hitting the crossroads. And again, just one crossroads for the win. And again, I thought that was pretty interesting. He didn't even. I was expecting Kevin to kick out of that. Cody hit another crossroads and then get the 3 count, but I'm kind of pleasantly surprised with that as well, that they didn't, and that they just went for the one crossroads for the victory, because it sells finishing moves as finishing moves. So yeah, I dug that finish. But again, with Kevin really being kind of hesitant to, and if he wanted to really embrace Cody, and you could kind of see like, all right, is he going to turn? And he didn't. So I liked that, but it did kind of go a little overboard when they were raising each other's hand, and Kevin was like, I'm going to raise your hand, and Cody's like, no, I'm going to raise your hand, and Kevin was like, no, I'm going to raise yours. It's like, all right, guys, like, we get it. And at that point, I was like, all right, is this setting up for Kevin to finally just be like, screw this, like, corny shit, and just, like, just clobber Cody? But it didn't, so we'll see what that ends up leading to, if nothing else, because like we got on SmackDown, Solo is up next. He said whoever wins between Cody and Owens, he's got next, so we'll see. All right, but speaking of the women's tag match, which I was just referring to, Jade Cargo and Bianca Belair versus the Unholy Union, which is Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. Shout out to Isla Dawn, because she, I think, really saved a couple spots in the match. And there was a spot early in the match, I forget exactly what it was, but she kind of tweaked her knee a little bit, and you could tell it was bothering her a bit. But then towards the ending of the match, when she was laying on the mat, closest towards like the turnbuckle to the far right, and Alba Fire went to the top rope. Alba was going to hit, God, what was it? Was it a senton? I think it was a senton. Ironically enough, I think it was a senton, and Bianca Belair was I think it was a senton. Regardless, so Alba was gonna come off of the top of the turnbuckle when Isla Dawn had Bianca Belair held up against her. So the way it was kind of positioned, Isla Dawn was laying on her back and had her knees up, and Bianca was laying on top of her knees, right? So kind of hoisting her up. I think what happened was someone was a little late, or maybe just the timing was off. I'm not really sure whose fault it was. Not my position to place blame. Not looking to do so. But just something was a little off, and Jade ended up coming in at the very last second to somewhat make the save. but it was kind of one of those things where I think it was maybe Jade who grabbed Bianca's braid, pulled Bianca out of the way at the last second, because obviously that was the spot, right, to avoid the actual collision. And Alba, you could tell she was kind of hesitant in the last second, and I'm pretty sure it was the swanton. And Isla still had her knees up, but once Bianca rolled off of Isla's knees, her knees were kind of leaning more towards the side, and Alba just hit and directly onto Isla's knee, and it was the knee. God, was it her left knee or her right knee? I think it was her left knee. It was the same knee that was tweaked earlier, and you could really tell at that point it was bothering her. Not anything major, because thankfully she was able to kind of recover and go throughout the match, even though it wasn't too much longer until the end of it. But I'm hoping she's okay. Sadly enough, if there is something, whether just minor or major wrong, which I don't think it's anything major, we would have heard something by now. Well, granted, I haven't been on Twitter, but I hope she's okay. And at least we'll give her time to kind of ice it down, take a breather, and just uh, the cat is about to walk across the desk. It'll just give her a breather, and it'll give her an opportunity just to rest up and not cause any more stress or anything to it. But from the beginning, Jade Cargill is a star, man. It's just she just got to get more reps in the ring, and I think that's the only thing that's limiting her, if you want to say that. Some of the spots weren't as smooth as you would like to see, right, or as we have come used to seeing. But again, that just comes with time, repetition. You can tell the progress she's made in the year that she's been with WWE already. So that, and just her confidence, you can, as crazy as it sounds, right, you look at her, and not that there's a lack of confidence or anything like that with her personally, but just in the ring and just controlling the match, you can tell, like, in my opinion, um she's kind of not I guess reactive, but not in a bad way. Bianca, and they even referenced it in the match. A good, I guess, synopsis of it is Michael Cole. I think it was Michael Cole, or maybe it was Wade Barrett, had referenced that the Unholy Union, they were singling out Bianca Belair and really just beating her down because she's the veteran on the team. And that way, if you eliminate Bianca essentially and kind of beat her down so much where she can't be a factor in the match, then you just have Jade left. And while Jade is a powerhouse and Jade is impressive and she's all this, she still doesn't have the experience as the other three, which again is not a knock, it's just facts. All of us start somewhere. All of us have various experience levels for various things that we do, like with podcasting. Even I'm more of a beginner still, right? So whereas you have other, I guess, creators out there, you call it, who fucking kick ass at it and just really, they know what they're doing. They've been doing it for years, and they just have a better handle on it, a better just there is better. You know what I mean? Like, they know what they're doing with editing, they know what they're doing with uploading. They're just better at it, which that comes with everything, in my opinion. So with Jade, I think that they have money, and she obviously looks like a star, and it's really exciting to kind of be on the journey with her and just watch her grow. And I think Bianca is a perfect partner for her as well, and to kind of really, I guess, help her hone her craft. In my opinion, it kind of reminds me of like a Natalia and Ronda Rousey type of pairing in comparison. Back when Ronda first started, granted, Ronda is a different type of competitor and athlete than Jade Cargill is, but in the sense that coming over to wrestling, yes, Ronda had an athletic and fighting background, but you still need to learn wrestling. Like, it doesn't matter where you come from, how athletic you are, you still need to learn wrestling. You still need to learn, even if you've been wrestling on the independent scene, you still need to learn the WWE style, and vice versa. If you've only been in the WWE world and all of a sudden you find yourself like a Matt Cardona, for instance, he had only been doing the WWE style for, what was it, like 10 years or something, and now he's out there in the indies fucking killing it, and he adapted. He learned how to adjust his character, adjust his style, and really go out there and change who he was. And that's what everyone goes through. So to me, I just really think that it's only a matter of time until Cargill really just, we're gonna be watching a match one day and be like, oh shit, like, look at her, like, she, like, where'd she come from, type thing. But until then, I like that her and Jade, or I'm sorry, her and Bianca are a team. I like the move of putting the tag team titles back on them. I really want them to have a solid run. And I want them to really develop a character for them too, and to really just show what makes them them. Obviously, we can see physically, you know, and we can make some assumptions, right? But just a team, and just like makes them mesh together, and why Jade is here. We already know Michael Cole had referenced that she wants to become a household name. Cool. Like elaborate on that. Maybe do like a sit down with her. Have Michael Cole do a sit down. If you want to do them both together, you can do them individually. And maybe air Jade's 1 week and then Bianca's the next week, or however you want to layer it out. Kind of treat them as a new tag team almost. And just reposition them like, hey, like we're really focusing on them. We're focusing on the women's division, because focusing on the tag division only helps benefit your singles division, because eventually they're going to break up, right? So that then pushes them into the singles division, and then again you can just shuffle in and out. So to me, I really think that it's a win-win, and I think shout out to Alba Fire and again Isla Dawn. They were rock stars in that match. There's again a couple moments where could have gone one way or another, and they just really showed what they can do. So shout out to them. But hey, oh hey, how do you say your name? Is it CT? Or what? I appreciate the love though. And thanks for joining me here live. I know there's a lot of options out there. I'm still learning how to function and do things around here, especially on the live format. So I appreciate you. He threw a comment up here. He said, they're doing the right thing with Jade and giving her TV time and learning under pressure. And yeah, man, and I couldn't agree more. And it's a pretty cool avatar there too. I think that's you're spot on with it. I think that it would have been very easy for them to have Jade come in, just capitalize on the, oh yeah, we stole her from AEW type thing, with and not say that directly, but kind of play off of that and just play off of the star power that she had. Granted, it wasn't even where it's at now, and it's just going to continue to grow, right? But they could have just really capitalized on her name and her look and her presence, and just shot her to attack, or not even attack. I'm sorry, the women's championship match. And again, I think that would have been jumping the gun very quickly. But in the past, we've seen the lack of patience from the creative side. We've seen people be brought up to the main roster, for instance, and just thrust it into a storyline for a championship where they weren't ready. And if they would have just given them 6-8 months, if that, or maybe even just 6 months for certain wrestlers, depending on who you're using as an example, if they were just giving them a little bit of time, it could have really affected them and just really impacted their career differently. So to me, I think with Jade, doing the slow build with her and kind of like the slow burn with her is much more beneficial than having her come in and just crush everybody in the roster, having her go on this undefeated streak, and just killing the division without really benefiting and gaining anything out of it. And again, that's no shot on AEW. I think they did the absolute right thing with her when she was in AEW. I think that you wanted to have, and again, I'm sure looking back on it, Tony Khan's probably a little salty that he didn't get to keep her longer, but at that time, like that's what you would do with her, especially since you have two women's titles. You had your TBS and then your actual women's championship. You have pretty much like two separate worlds over there. So I think that what they did in AEW with Jade was right for her at that time, and I think what they're doing with her in WWE right now is right as well. And that's why I'm saying just devote a little bit more attention to her and Bianca for that matter too, and just adding a little bit more substance to them as characters to see what we got going forward long term with her, you know, because I think that's the only way we're going to get invested with her. The same way we got invested with Becky Lynch. Again, like I know it's kind of a drastic comparison, but it's to me that's what you want, like long term, right? And I think that you just need to kind of start planting the seeds now. But again, I really thought it was an okay match. Again, it was a little concerning at some points, but we got through it, and yeah, obviously the right outcome. But I'm just hopeful. There's a big scene in the background. I'm just hopeful that Isla Dawn is good, and yeah. But next up, we had, and I was actually kind of surprised that this match went next. Oh, my page froze. There we go. And that was the strap match. Again, I was kind of expecting this a little bit further, but again, with only 5 matches, it can only go but so many placements. And that was the strap match. Drew McIntyre facing off against CM Punk. This match was kind of what I was expecting. I was expecting, I don't even want to say a little bit more, but I don't know. I think that I, the first sign, okay, so the first sign coming out with Punk wearing white, I was like, oh, he's gonna bleed, and sure enough, he did. Whether that was necessarily planned or not, because it's WWE, you know, and they they aren't really fans of blood, but I think this is probably planned. Whether or not it was, I'm here for it. But the match itself, I love the way it started. I love that Drew attacked Punk. It made sense. I love that there was a beatdown prior to them actually officially starting the match itself. And I love that Punk was just whipped and just beat down at the beginning. I think that is exactly what needed to happen. Punk looked like a little bitch at the beginning, you know, like he was getting his ass kicked. And I even laughed at one point, like audibly laughed. I was like, he looks like a rag doll out there, and it just kind of whatever reason just made me like seeing his legs get flung around. It just kind of like I had like a split second of like all the times he's been like a flashback of all the times he's been flung around, and it's just his selling is really good, and I don't really think he gets as much credit as maybe he probably should for his selling jobs. But man, like he really makes you think that he is getting his ass beat and that he has been in the fight of his life, especially with his long hair. And when he gets flung over, especially a specimen like Drew, right? Drew is just a beast. When Drew thrusts him over his shoulders, it's just like, and Punk just has that exasperated look in his face. Like it's red, and he's just like, oh, Jesus, what did I get myself into? I love it. And I just think that it's just so funny to me. Maybe I'm just kind of sadistic, but I think that Punk is he doesn't get enough love for his selling. I'll leave it at that. Um, I was a little bit worried as we made our way through the match and towards the end that the bracelet was gonna come back to bite Punk again. And towards the end of the match, we I think Drew took it out of his trunks, the bracelet, right, that they've been obviously fighting over. And I was just like, oh my god, here we go. And it did and it didn't. So there's one point where Punk was kind of taking his time. And before we get to that point, I love the fact that Punk is just kind of like he's that asshole that kind of outsmarts you and it pisses you off a little bit more, or even more than it probably should. When Drew had him on his shoulders, I think it was, yeah, it was his shoulders, and Drew was going from turnbuckle to turnbuckle. And they had mentioned it earlier, and I didn't even think about it until I was watching it. But Drew, as he was hitting the turnbuckle, he would hit one, then Punk hit it right after him. Drew would go to another turnbuckle, hit that one, and then make his way around. And each time Drew would hit one, Punk would hit it behind Drew, and Drew didn't know until he got to the third, and he was about to hit the fourth. And I just loved it. I was like, oh shit, they're gonna actually this would be a great finish, and it would piss Drew off. Have Punk outsmart Drew at the very last second. But they did it. It was a fun little moment for me. I was like, wow, that actually be really clever. But again, they didn't. What they did get me though, because I was slightly concerned that Punk was gonna get outsmarted. He was going to take too long and just play into the crowd too long. And when he was going for that last GTS, I was like, man, you're playing with fire, bro. Just fucking hit the GTS, hit the turnbuckle, and be done. Like, just you don't need to keep slaying the dragon. He's done. Like, Drew's not moving. Like, we're good. But all in all, he ended up hitting that fourth turnbuckle. Right before that, though, he got the bracelet off of Drew's hand, put it on his hand, and used that hand to slap the turnbuckle to pick up the victory. So that was a nice touch there. Punk has his bracelet back. All should be well in the world of CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, but I don't think this is going to be the end. I'm actually wondering how they're going to continue it though, unless it's Drew just coming out there and just continuing to bitch to Punk, or maybe costing Punk with something else. But I think it may be a same or a similar setup that they did last month when Drew beat Punk, having Drew come out there on Raw, have him cut a promo and be like, yeah, like pretty much a similar thing. Just I'm good now. I'm ready to move on with my life. Because Punk had even said that I'm pretty certain he had said he's ready to like once he, or maybe that was, I'm confusing my people now, but essentially move on to bigger and better things. So you can have Punk saying that he's possibly setting his sights on Gunther or begin to declare his like mission statement, and then have Drew come out, or you can either have Drew hit him from behind, or you can have Drew just interrupt him and they can do a verbal exchange again. But I think we'll kind of pass that. But it's just going to be kind of challenging, I think, to continue this. Although I kind of predicted that this was going to happen as well. But I almost thought that there was going to be a little bit more uncertainty in the finish, and that was going to give Drew and Al to complain to have a definitive match at Bad Blood and have that be Hell in a Cell. So I guess we'll have to see. And I was going to say Monday, but I know they had made some announcements. I guess I would assume we would have Punk. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Says strap match was a little underwhelming with the blood. They can't make their minds up whether to focus on it or not. As a result, they're missing some of the drama. Fair. I think they just need to embrace it, but I think right now they're still a little hesitant too, just until they get off certain sponsors and certain platforms. I think once we move over to Netflix, I think that's really going to change the landscape and they're going to be more comfortable doing stuff. But I think right now they're just kind of teetering that line. But I think they're going to get a lot more freedom when they move to Netflix. At least I hope, because again, it's like you can't have your cake and eat it too type thing, you know? Like either embrace it. I'm not saying it needs to be every other match has someone bleeding or every week has someone bleeding, but where it makes sense, have it make sense type thing, you know? Next up, we had the Judgment Day. We had Judgment Day members Dominic Mysterio, and I guess Liv Morgan is officially maybe a member of the Judgment Day, but definitely Dom Mysterio and Liv Morgan facing off against the Terror Twins, Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest. Now, with this match, I predicted that Judgment Day was going to win. And I thought that we were going to have Finn Balor interfere, and I am most likely the Judgment Day as well, you know, JD and possibly Carlito. But I was definitely predicting Finn interfering, costing Damian, and that kind of prolonging this feud. And it would kind of kill a few birds with one stone, rather. You would have your eventual one-on-one match again with Damian and Finn. It would prolong the Terror Twins from getting their victory against Dom and Liv, and then that would also prolong Rhea and Liv from having their eventual one-on-one match. I was wrong. Clearly I was wrong. We did still get interference from the Judgment Day. Finn did still interfere. We almost had a nice call. Well, we did have a callback, but it almost ended the same way. To how Damian lost the title at SummerSlam, with Finn obviously interfering, but Finn being on ringside and Damian kind of hovering and laying over the middle rope, setting up perfectly for Dominic to hit the 619. But that did not the stupid ad. That did not secure the victory though, and we ended up getting Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest picking up the 1, 2, and 3. Rhea ended up hitting the Riptide onto Liv Morgan. She did get a little bit of offense in on Dominic at one point in the match. She did not hit the Riptide though, and we still have yet to see that. But she did, I think, give him a couple clotheslines and kind of push him around a little bit. But Liv saved her man, so we still have to wait to see Dominic get the official Riptide. But let me go back to my notes here. Yeah, and outside of the commentary table, right before the ending of the match, Damian Priest clotheslined Dominic Mysterio, and he just hit a brutal clothesline. It was, you want to talk about a clothesline from hell? That shit was just brutal. But that set up and gave Ripley enough time and caused distraction for Liv Morgan, for Ripley to headbutt Morgan and hit the Riptide for the win. Big fan of the way that she is pinning her opponents again. She being Ripley. She knows what she's doing. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But I really enjoyed this match. It was much better than what I thought it was gonna be. And God, like Rhea Ripley is just a star, man. Like her presence and just what she brings to the table, it's just next level. And it's so refreshing to see, especially being a female, but it's just happened organically. I love that Damian came out first and then Rhea came out after that. And then fast forwarding to the end of the match where Rhea was on the turnbuckle and Damian was doing the click, you know, pointing over to her and acknowledging her and having all the spotlight be on her. and that was just a beautiful moment. I really just it really gave me another level of respect for Damian Priest, and it really shows, yeah, they're a team, and they really got each other's backs. So I really dug it. But I am still surprised that Rhea and Damian won. I really kind of like with Kevin and what's the Kevin and KO? Kevin and Cody. I wonder what they're going to do going forward. Now, again, with Rhodes and Kevin Owens, they do have Solo Sikoa, who had mentioned that he's got next, so they do have that out, and they don't need to necessarily run that back. But I think you still have more to get out of this whole Judgment Day, Rhea Ripley, Damian Priest feud. Now, whether that means they're just done with the Dominic side and they're going to focus Rhea specifically on Liv and then Damian Priest on Finn Balor, they could do that and lead to Bad Blood, but I'm still just kind of surprised that they got the victory here. Again, I don't hate it. I feel like they probably could have gotten a little bit more out of it. But again, man, especially it's just so fun seeing the international crowds like just react to Rhea Ripley, and man, like she has a chance to be bigger than Becky was, and at that point when Becky was a star, there are people making arguments that she was the face of the company at that point. And that was what 2019, 2018, 2019. So I think if they stay on this path with Rhea within the next year or two, maybe 2 years, she may not be the face of the company just with how hot the product is right now, but man, she's gonna be like a 1B, 1C type thing if you have like your Cody and Roman at the top. Rhea's gonna be right there for sure. So I'm so happy for her too, because like I ran into her one day. I don't know if she lived in the area at the time or whatever, but she was working out at the same gym that I was working out at, right across the street from where I live. And I was in the sauna one day, and she just randomly walks in. And when I tell you, like, I did a double take, and I was like, "Is this really happening right now?" And I was like, do I say something? Because I was just about to get out too. Like I'd already been in there for like 10 minutes. I was dying. 15 minutes. I was freaking dying. I know my face was just like, it looked like death. And she just walks in looking fine, you know? And I was just like, what do I say? Do I say something? How do I say it? Like, do I just, I don't know. So yeah, she was very cool. Like she talked to me for probably a good 10 minutes. She didn't have to, you know, and she was just a very cool person, and she kept the conversation going too. Like I tried to stop, you know, or just kind of not ask open-ended questions or statements or anything like that. And she actually was engaging as well. So it was actually really cool. So just that moment right there just really will always sit with me, and I'll always remember that. So I'm just always gonna have a little bit of biasy for her, I guess. And even more hopeful that she just fucking kills it and she gets as much as she can and she ascends as far as she can, because I think that something about her is just different. Something about her, just her presence and just what she brings to the table, and just how she gets a reaction. I think that just something about her, and they're lucky to have her for sure. And again, it's so crazy to think about where she's come from, starting in the Mae Young Classic, and just visually what she looked like then, and seeing how she looks now. I think it's just crazy. Um, let's see. All right, and now we are here in the main event. Your world heavyweight champion facing off against Randy Orton for the obviously heavyweight championship. This match was so fun, and I will say that I was pleasantly surprised again with the reaction that Randy got. I thought he was gonna get a good reaction, right? But this dude, again, like he is in a different realm, in a different version of his career, where this dude is just like, it's like that legacy status, you know? Like I'm sure he could be booed, right? But man, there's just something different about Orton, where I was saying it either on a different podcast for Kagash podcast here or at Brasswing Media. He is like John Cena, but he's not the corny version of John Cena, right? No offense to John, but not that Fruity Pebble version, right? Like he's still Randy Orton, but he's appreciating his status. He's the company guy. Like he knows what he has, and he's perfected his craft years ago, right? But he's at the point now where he can really enjoy and get a lot out of doing less, but he's letting us in more as fans. He's kind of opened up to us more emotionally, I think, whether it's noticeable verbally or not. He doesn't have to go out there and say, "Oh, I love you guys" every week, and just like kind of like baby us, right? Or cater to us, but he has this way about him, like the things that he does off the mic and the things that he's doing in the match now, where he's talking to us, where he's reacting to us, where he's clapping to us, where he's encouraging people to sing. He is the same guy that a few years ago he almost lost his mind, him and Cesaro. There's different matches, I think, but when the whole beach ball thing was the craze, right? Now, some people say it's disrespectful, some people said they were just having a good time. It is what it is. But Orton used to be, and there was this one match with him and Cena. Was it a SummerSlam? I think it was when they were unifying the titles for the first or second time, depending on which titles you're talking about. Um, but it was a ladder or like a TLC match. But Orton was, I forget what it was, but he was just losing his mind. The fans were, I think they were chanting for Daniel Bryan, I think, in that match, and it's a possibly what 2014 time frame. He was just losing his mind with the fact that the fans were just trying to hijack his match and just singing nonstop, and it wasn't about him. This, the fans tonight, they were, now granted they were speaking German, but I think one of the chants that that they were doing throughout the night, Michael Cole said, was like face to face or something. So like just like a fight chant essentially. But whatever it was, Orton was living it up and he was enjoying it. He was embracing it. And he, at one point, they just kind of stopped, him and Gunther, and he just started clapping and he threw his arms up and they reacted and he pointed over to Gunther. He was like, "You do it." And I don't think Gunther did it. Because the camera wasn't on him. I highly doubt that he did. But it was just fun, you know? Like, it's just Orton having a different version of himself and, like I said, bringing us in. But he's not pandering to us. He's not being like the old shucks, like everything is like dandelions and shit. Like, no, like he's being Orton. That's another reason why I don't really want him to turn right now either. When it's like in regards to talking about dealing with Cody or anything like that. While I would love to see the feud and love to see the story, it's just almost like I don't want to lose what we have with Orton right now. Let's see what we got here. Says, love the main event. International crowds were in danger of jumping the shark in this match, and I'm English, but they turned it around and didn't let them take over. It was well done. Nice. Yeah, there are sometimes in some environments, I think it was the France crowd. I was like, man, like it was getting to be too much, and just like, all right, we get it. I think it was that one. Or to me, it was almost like I almost had to turn down the TV because it was just like it was just too distracting, and it was just like I said, taking over, and like you said, jumping the shark in the match. But I think that it ended up leveling out, and they ended up having a nice middle ground towards the midway point toward in the end. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying there. They but at the same token too, I get it, right? Because like for instance with Berlin, this is the first time in 27 years that they had any type of, I think, televised event, and then the first time ever that they had a PLE or a pay-per-view. So I'd probably take advantage of my opportunity too, right? And I'm sure the tickets, and I know, I'm not even saying I'm sure, like I know that the ticket prices that they paid were outrageous. I don't know the exact amount, but they said that this was what was it, the highest grossing? I forget how they exactly worded it, but the highest, I'm just gonna say the highest grossing event in an arena. But it's like I get it, but the same token too, it's like, okay, like you do need to let some things breathe as a fan too. You need to sit down and just, even if you know something's most likely going to happen, enjoy it happening. Kind of like with us with our phones, right? Like we know like to get prepared for a moment, to get our cameras ready and stuff, whereas we should just like enjoy it sometimes and just not even need to take our phone out, just enjoy the moment that we're living in. But yeah, man, I totally get it. I think that they were very close to it, but I think that they turned it around, like you said. So it was well done. And I think that kind of goes to show Orton too. Or I think Orton really controlled the crowd, And I think that Gunther did as well. You know, you got to give Gunther his credit. He could have played it up more and got them more hyped and got them more raucous. And he didn't. He knew how to kind of play the line and keep them in between reactive enough, but like not like you said, not taking over the crowd, or I'm sorry, not taking over the match and the environment and things like that. Um, but yeah, of course that was the main event. I think that the road to Bad Blood is going to be very fun. I think that when we get a clear idea of what we're going to do with the main stories, essentially with Cody on SmackDown, with Gunther on Raw, because Gunther for sure needs a new opponent. And to wrap before we kind of put a bow on things, Gunther, he actually extended his hand to Randy Orton. I was shocked because I had even said in the predictions, I was like, I would love to see them have just this brutal, like this physical match, right? But then towards the end, and after the end of the match, rather, I was like, not even necessarily have them give like a handshake or anything, but maybe have Orton give like a little nod of acknowledgement to him. But they did, and it was Gunther initiating the sportsmanship to Randy, and Randy accepted, and it wasn't no bullshit, no RKO out of nowhere after that or anything like that. It was genuine. They still kind of shared the ring, which I was surprised Orton stayed in the ring as long as he did afterwards and didn't kind of just like leave the ring to Gunther to kind of celebrate that moment. But he did end up getting the ring to himself because the press conference started immediately afterwards, and they kind of flash back to the ring. Michael Cole was still standing ringside, so he kind of ran down the card really quick and just said how great of a show it was. And then they turned it back over to Gunther, who was still in the ring, and I forget which commentator it was, maybe Kathy Kelly. And they did an interview with Gunther, and Gunther just spoke in German, which was pretty cool. But they also mentioned during the press conference, Cody did, and again, it's still ongoing. I started this show right during the press conference, so I haven't seen anything since. But Cody opened up the press conference saying that Triple H, and this is going to make you feel real fucking old here in a second, Triple H's oldest daughter, I believe her name is Aurora. He didn't mention her name, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was, or is rather. His oldest daughter and Stephanie's oldest daughter, Aurora, is starting college. So Triple H had to leave right after the show ended to fly out to wherever she's going to college at and be there. And when he said that, I was like, what? She's starting college? Like, what? Like, this is freaking crazy. Like, I was just like, man, I was kind of feeling old, especially when I woke up this morning, but like, god damn, like his oldest daughter is starting college. Like, what is happening? So yeah, in case you needed to think twice about yourself today and all that good stuff, you're welcome. But with that being said, I'm gonna wrap it up here, get all this uploaded. The good thing about doing lives though, you don't really have to do much. I'm just gonna edit a couple pieces and maybe splice it up a bit. I don't know if next time I'm gonna be doing a show. Tomorrow it's a Sunday, so not much I'm sure is gonna happen between tonight and tomorrow. May do one possibly. I don't have. Well, I do have to work Tuesday again. God, I gotta go back to the real world. So I'll do something coming up here within the next, obviously, week or so, but the next few days. Probably let maybe Raw, maybe even Dynamite get under our belts, and then do kind of like a joint show there. But of course, if anything groundbreaking drops or anything like that, I'll be jumping on here. Or if I just feel like bullshitting, I'll jump on here as well. But no, thank you, Sai. I hope I'm saying your name again as well, or your name properly as well. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at pronunciations. But yeah, thank you, man. I I do. I probably love it a little bit too much. But yeah, I thank you for interacting and enjoying it. You have a lot of options out there, my friend. A lot of options, and I just appreciate you first of all popping over here and commenting and just being a part of it. You definitely added to the show. I appreciate it. Especially because this was so impromptu. I legit was like, yeah, let me figure out I'll go live and set the timestamp for 2 minutes later. So I appreciate you popping in, my friend. And until next time, if you have any other comments or anything else like that, feel free to drop it in here. I'll try to pop in and see. But until next time, guys, feel free to follow me on Twitter at @kickashpodcast_. You can follow me personally at ASHMANNS. But again, until next time, stay safe out there, my friends, and enjoy some wrestling. Take care.